Finance Component Units is now called to order due to the ongoing public health crisis posed by COVID-19 and in light of the advice from the CDC and prevention of the states and the states of New York and New Jersey. Today's meeting is being held virtually via teleconference with audio being live streamed from the Port Authority's website. Earlier today, the Committees of Finance and Audit met jointly in executive session, and the Nominating Committee met in executive session. The reports will be filed with the official minutes of today's board meeting. The Commissioners also met in executive session earlier to discuss matters involving ongoing negotiations or reviews of contracts or proposals, matters related to personnel or personnel procedures, and matters related to the lease of real property wherein disclosure would affect the value thereof or the public interest. Let's first begin on a somber note, a moment of silence in observance of the upcoming 28th anniversary of the first terrorist attack on the World Trade Center, and in memory of the 6 victims, including 4 Port Authority employees and an unborn child who perished February 26, 1993. We ask everyone to observe a moment of silence. We are now going to move to show a short video in memory of the 5 Port Authority and PATH employees who succumbed to the coronavirus in 2020. These individuals will be deeply missed, and we've heard from their senior advisors and family members about this loss, and our heart goes out to them, and I'm hoping that this memorial will say something about who they are and what they mean to us. Can we play the video, please? Hey, Jim. Hey, Jim?
Yes, Chairman.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that clip was intact. I think they deserve to have it intact, and there was some ripple in the middle. I just want to make sure we didn't miss anything.
It played, Chairman, it played fully
Okay.
on the webcast, yes.
Okay. Thank you for that. And if we could just take a moment of silence for those individuals, our Port Authority family members who have left us. And we thank them for their service, and we thank the family members, and we grieve with them, and let them know they will always be part of our family. Thank you, Jim. On moving ahead, it is on another obviously very somber note. We have noticed the recent passing of our colleague, Commissioner George McDonald, passed away on January 26th. Most of us pay a tribute to him on the video. I just feel incumbent as the chair to say what George meant to us. We came on the board at the same time. He was just the most friendly, contagious, wonderful human being. And people talk about how the whole board is glued together, working together. And George is as much part of that, has been and will stay with us. He is thoughtful. He was provocative in terms of how he thought about the social issues, what some of us like myself didn't really think as deeply as he did. Amazing game changer. He's changed so many lives with the Doe Fund and all of his really charitable works. I couldn't capture it all, and I'm hoping those in the video can capture it much better than I, but I do say with great sadness, you don't have an individual like that come into your life and not leave a significant impact. He has left in a very short amount of time an impact on this authority, on this region, on me and the commissioners and senior staff. And Jim, if we could play that tribute to Commissioner, that would be appropriate. Well, today's one of the days you don't look forward to as the chair of the Port Authority or as an individual. Today's a day that we pay a tribute to an individual who has recently passed away, Commissioner George McDonald. When I heard the news, I will tell you, I was struck by a few things. And first of all, I was struck by his life story, which I got to know more fully. Spoke to some of the fellow commissioners, and we commiserated about how short his life has been, and frankly, how much of an impact he had made beyond the Port Authority in his private life with the Doe Fund and taking care of the homeless, and what he did as an executive, as a father and grandfather. I will tell you that we're going to miss George McDonald, and I will tell you for several reasons. First of all, he's just the most decent human being I think I've met, and as I told Commissioner Horowitz and others, at the end of the day, he's just a beautiful man who has lived a very beautiful life. What was special to me with George, we both arrived at the board the same day in July 3rd of 2017, and as I walked into that very intimidating conference room with fellow commissioners, the New York and the New Jersey side, I fully expected a West Side Story-like atmosphere, the Jets and the Sharks, New York and New Jersey, kind of pitted against each other because that's how it had been for many years. But I knew things were going to be different when this individual introduced himself. He said, "I'm George McDonald." He said, "I'm a Jersey boy. I was born in Spring Lake." He says, "and we're all going to get along." And from that moment, he kind of broke the ice, and I knew that things at the Port Authority were going to be okay. And I will tell you, over the last 3.5 years, it's been an honor to work with him. He's been an inspiration, and it's been his personality that has allowed all of us to kind of work together harmoniously. You think about it, in 3.5 years, every vote has been unanimous. New York, New Jersey, dealing with very high-end transportation issues, and then we're all getting along, and I think that's a great tribute to George. So I want to pass on condolences, heartfelt condolences to the McDonald family.
He will be sorely missed, and he makes the rest of us look like we've been standing still our whole lives. George, we are going to miss you, but your spirit will remain with us at the Port Authority, and we will continue in harmony, getting along, doing big things in your honor and in the name of George MacDonald.
Wisdom, charm, and Irish wit were always available to me, and for those, I will always remember you. I will never forget accompanying you to a Doe Fund gala. The personal stories describing successful comebacks by the previously incarcerated, unemployed, homeless, and hungry, who too often were totally abandoned by their families, brought tears to my eyes. Their statements of heartfelt thanks to both you and Harriet will endure. Your pioneering efforts will always be cherished by me and many, many New Yorkers. God bless and Godspeed.
In addition to serving on the Port Authority Board with me, George was also on the Governor's Council for Reentry and Reintegration of people coming home from prison. He was a fierce advocate of those people, and he was also passionate about how we as a society really live up to our promise of a second chance. The world will miss him.
Commissioner MacDonald was truly a unique individual. He dedicated his life to helping others. Through his Doe Fund, he made an extraordinary contribution to thousands upon thousands of individuals. At the Port Authority, he was always ready with a kind word, an expressed interest in others, and he made extraordinary contributions in a clear-thinking and forthright manner to our board meetings. We will truly miss him.
We make one promise to every man who comes to us for help, the promise of economic opportunity. Contributing, tax-paying, productive members of society who are supporting their children and discovered their dignity, which we knew was there the whole time. And they did it all through their own hard work. What could be a more American story than that?
Thank you, Jim. What could be more of an American story than just seeing George MacDonald's life in front of us? At this time, we ask for a moment of silence on behalf of Commissioner George MacDonald. Okay, we thank you. That was a tough one, folks. Jim, we're ready to move on, Jim?
Yes, Chairman.
All righty. Thanks, Jim. We are back to our public meeting. A little heavier heart as we move forward. Seeing that this is the first meeting in 2021, the agency's annual meeting. Under the bylaws, officers are elected at the annual meeting, and as such, the nominating committee met in executive session prior to the meeting in connection with the election of officers. Commissioner Pacino, as chair of the nominating committee, may we have your report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In accordance with the bylaws of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey and each of its 3 subsidiary corporations, the Port Authority Trans-Hudson Corporation, Newark Legal and Communications Center Urban Renewal Corporation, and the New York and New Jersey Railroad Corporation. The nominating committees met in executive session prior to today's meeting in connection with the annual election of officers. On behalf of the nominating committees, I desire to report at the meetings held earlier today. In accordance with the relevant bylaws, the committees, by unanimous action, submits the nomination of Kevin O'Toole for election to the office of chairman, Jeffrey H. Linford to the office of vice chairman, and Richard Cotton for the election of executive director of the Port Authority and president of each of the 3 subsidiary corporations. By unanimous action, the committee also submits the following nominations as officers of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey: Michael E. Fabiars as general counsel, James E. McCoy as secretary, Elizabeth M. McCarthy as chief financial officer, Daniel G. McCarron as comptroller, and Cheryl A. Yetka as treasurer. Commissioner McCabe has requested an opportunity to make a statement concerning the proposed nominations before the board for consideration. Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner Pacino. I appreciate that, and I do wholeheartedly support the entire slate for this board. But if you would indulge me and my colleagues would, I would like to take this point in time to just recognize that, as we joined together this time last year to accept the nominations for leadership, no one could have expected the monumental challenges for the next 12 months would bring. What's more, no one on this board could have foreseen what an extraordinary job that each would do in the face of such adversity. Can't imagine how we could have navigated this extraordinary year we just faced without the team at the helm. And I cannot picture a better group of men and women to continue leading us in the months ahead. However, I'd like to take a moment to recognize my friend, Chairman O'Toole. I've known Chairman O'Toole as someone with a reputation of outside of the board in his very many diverging capacities and a reputation as a strong leader. In the last 3 years, I think we've all come to understand that reputation has been crystallized as a person of vision, intelligence, and compassion. We have watched from this board as he's deployed all those traits and that skill set into his role as a leader, as a fierce advocate for the people of New Jersey and New York and the entire metropolitan region. We have witnessed as he's forged a unique partnership with Executive Director Rick Cotton that has ushered in an era of cooperation and harmony that is virtually unprecedented in the 100-year history of this agency and laid the foundation for an incredible century yet to come. I am proud to call Kevin O'Toole my colleague and my friend. I am proud still to put forth not only his name, but all those who represent this fine organization in their respective capacities of leadership to serve not only as chairman of the Port Authority, but the entire slate that represents us all as board members and the entire metropolitan region to serve at the helm of the Port Authority in New York and New Jersey. To the chairman and to all those, thank you for all that you have demonstrated, and we continue to look forward to working with you. Thank you, Commissioner Pacino.
Thank you, Commissioner McCabe. Do any other nominating committee members wish to make a statement concerning the proposal?
Yes, Commissioner. This is Commissioner Eve. I would love to take a moment to do so.
Go right ahead.
Well, I just want to echo many of the comments expressed by Commissioner McCabe. But I want to applaud on behalf of myself, and I think sharing the views of all commissioners, and particularly by fellow New York commissioners, the extraordinary dedication and commitment to the port and its employees by Chairman O'Toole, the dean, the fabulous dean of the New York commissioners, the New York delegation, Vice Chairman Linford, and Executive Director Rick Cotton, and all the officers of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. But as spectacular as that dedication and that commitment have been and continue to be, what I am most proud of is that unprecedented partnership, truly unprecedented partnership that exists among the chair, the vice chair, and the executive director. That unprecedented partnership, together with the spectacular work of nearly 7,000 port employees, has served as the foundation of the port's success in exercising national leadership among transportation authorities on a range of issues. I'm not going to name them all here, but just to name a few. Homelessness, especially championed by our dearly beloved Commissioner McDonald. Community engagement, employee engagement, leadership on living wages, physical and cybersecurity, financial discipline, customer service, and of course, visionary projects designed to meet the needs of regional, national, and global travelers for generations to come, while we continue to serve as the transportation infrastructure network that is vital to trade and commerce and to the health of the regional and our national economy. And when we all think about just the last year alone, in which we once again, because of this partnership, set the standard in addressing the COVID-19 pandemic, to do our collective part to keep our employees and our customers safe and the broader community safe. But I also will say, as a commissioner, as a woman of the world, and as a Black woman, I think about the movement for racial and social justice, most especially Black Lives Matter. The leadership team, you could have shied away from dealing with this issue, but you didn't. Instead, this partnership and this leadership team embraced the opportunity, and provided both the leadership and support to employees so that truly meaningful and transformative change could be made and will continue to be made to make this already great institution even better and stronger than ever for our employees and the millions of people we serve. So I just want to congratulate and applaud again the leadership of our vice chairman and the dean of the New York delegation, Chairman O'Toole, and Rick Cotton, executive director Rick Cotton, and all the officers for your past, your present, and your future efforts. We are all enormously proud of all that you do and your leadership and partnership each and every day. And as glorious as the port's history has been, I believe because of your unprecedented efforts, because of your unprecedented partnership, the best of the port is yet to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other nominating committee members wish to make statements concerning this proposal?
I would, Commissioner Porcino. I just want to support and emphasize and join in the comments from Commissioners Eve and McCabe about the terrific leadership that we have both on the board and in management. And I want to add one important issue that this leadership team has brought, that Alicia, you listed a number of very important issues, but I think one thing I think we need to emphasize is the integrity, honesty, transparency, and sense of ethics that this leadership team, from our chair, Commissioner O'Toole, to our vice chair, Commissioner Linford, and to the entire management team led by Rick Cotton, that these are important issues that have not been forgotten by this leadership team and continue to be emphasized, and I think make us a best-in-class organization in the world on these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other statements from the nominating committee members? Hearing none, Mr. Chairman, this concludes my report.
You take a formal roll call and then you can turn it over. Jim, do you need a formal roll call on that?
James?
Yes, commissioners, there's no recusals required on this matter. Chairman O'Toole,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford,
Yes.
Commissioner Bagger, Commissioner Eve,
Yes.
Commissioner Horwitz,
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera,
Yes, and congratulations to all.
Commissioner McCabe,
Yes.
Pacino,
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado.
Yes.
Okay, all the votes are in order. The item has been approved. And let me just say, first of all, to Commissioner McKay, thank you very much for that very generous commentary. And it meant a lot. I kind of got a lump in my throat listening to some of that. And Commissioner Eve, I say thank you to all the commissioners I'm staring at right now. I've deliberately put the grid on you so I can say personally, look at you in each of your face and your eyes and say thank you. Rosanna and Alicia, Kevin, Rich, Ray, Gary, Jeff, Daniel. It is, growing up, I wanted to do three things. I wanted to play third baseman for the Yankees. I wanted to be an assemblyman, and I wanted to be a lawyer. Never in my dream of things I said I wanted to be the chairman of the Port Authority, something I never knew. And in the legislature, I said that's a position I wouldn't even dream about going there, because the folks who go there are people who are the giants in the industry, like Mr. Bagger and others, and Pacino. I'm beyond humbled when I say this. So in August of 17, I was asked to take over as the chair. Never did I think that would happen, one, and two, never would I say we'd be entering our fourth year with this team intact. And it is with great humility I say thank you to my fellow commissioners, is because of each and every one of you. And obviously with George McDonald playing heavily into this, we have all been one wonderful team. And I can't thank you enough for your confidence, your leadership, and your friendship. To Jeff Linford, my chair, my partner, thank you very much. It's the yin and the yang that make this board work. We have just worked extraordinarily well together. I thank you for your dedication and for your amazing insights and your political and business acumen. And I have to save my last comments to Rick Cotton. It has been as I've fondly said, the shotgun marriage when we met in that warehouse in New Jersey in June. We have to get along to get along. We got along. We have never had a single fight, close on one call, and we'll let you guess when that one was. But I will tell you, he's been the most extraordinary partner outside of my marriage that I've ever had in my life. He's extraordinary in so many ways, as you well know. Rick, thank you very much for an extraordinary friendship, partnership. You have made us all the things that Commissioner Eve talked about, the excellence of this agency, have been upgraded dramatically because of your vision, your drive, your leadership. It's been extraordinary. Thank you for taking this very difficult agency, very complex agency, through very difficult times. I look forward to serving with you for the next period of time. And the senior staff, Michael Farbiage and everybody else, thank you all very much for your drive and this compactness of us working together. I'm hoping this ride stays together I hope the band stays together for a while, like in the Blues Brothers, and we're going to take this as far as we can. Vice Chair, would you like to say anything?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to thank all my colleagues. Some of you heard me say that over the last decade, I have been privileged to serve with over 20% of all the commissioners that have ever served on the Port Authority Board. So I have some statistical validity when I talk about the quality of the board. I'd also like to remind people that I've served with 3 chairmen and 3 executive directors. And the entente cordiale, as I call it, between the executive director and the chairman has been unparalleled. And I remember when I would have to walk down the corridor from the chairman's office to the executive and say, could we meet in the middle of the corridor just so they would talk? So this is really fabulous. But the best I save for last. I have sat next to the chairman now for 3.5+ years, 4 years. And I can tell you that his sagacity, his extemporaneousness, and his heart, I witness. And I think it is absolutely fabulous. So, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
When you sit next to Jeff, you have to have a thesaurus because there's 3 words he used. I have no idea what you're talking about, Jeff. I'm sure it's good.
It's good.
It's good.
I'll write it down and send it to your wife. It's good.
Thank you very much. On a serious note, appreciate it. Looking forward to a very difficult, challenging year, but this is our 100-year centennial. Let's get this together. We're over the hump. There's light at the end of the tunnel, and we're all going to do this thing together. But again, thank you very much. Having said all that, let's go to our Executive Director, Rick Cotton, for your executive summary, your report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I do want to begin by responding and thanking you for your comments, thanking the commissioners for their support constantly throughout the year, and say thank you to the senior leadership team and to acknowledge the comments that that each of the board members has made. Let me turn to my report. There is no question that in terms of the last 60 days that have passed since we last met together, the COVID-19 crisis has continued to dominate the agency's agenda. All of our facilities, I am proud to say, continue to operate at a very high standard. The agency's leadership and the agency's employees responded with extraordinary skill to the largest snowstorm to hit the region in the 3 years since Winter Storm Grayson, and then to an additional more moderate storm over this past weekend. Through the entire period of the current winter surge of the virus, employees have been vigilant in abiding by COVID-19 health and safety protocols and have dedicated themselves to maintaining those same health and safety protocols on behalf of our customers. We continue, and I really want to emphasize this, to be profoundly, profoundly grateful to all Port Authority employees for their continued commitment and extraordinary hard work. It has been on full display as they have dealt with the storms. And I also want to express my profound gratitude to the leadership of the 23 unions who represent the majority of our employees for their cooperation, their diligence, their selflessness as we have navigated the coronavirus crisis. Before turning to the more detailed substance of my report, I do want to associate myself with the tribute to Commissioner George McDonald. It was an honor to work with him in his role as a commissioner of the Port Authority, and we will all miss him profoundly. I also want to pay tribute personally to the 5 employees and their families, the 5 employees who passed from COVID-19. Anthony Panariello, Robert Elijah, Sharon James, Uday Mehta, and Wayne Ben Ali. We could not be more grateful for their service, and we will, our thoughts and prayers will be with their families for their loss. Turning now to my report, with respect to the winter weather challenges that I mentioned above, the Port Authority facilities and staff rose to the challenge of responding to Winter Storm Orlena. Thanks to aggressive pre-treatment and efficient snow clearance, strong coordination between internal and external stakeholders, and near constant communication with customers, our bridges and tunnels remained safely open to vehicular traffic throughout the storm. Our airports, bus terminals, and seaport stood ready to operate as soon as airline, bus companies, and shippers were able to reinstitute their operations. 3-foot snow drifts forced PATH to suspend operations at 3 p.m. on Monday, resuming operation by 11 a.m. on Tuesday. These results are a testament to the agency's high degree of preparedness and the skill of the agency's workforce. It is also worth noting that these results were achieved while staff strictly adhered to COVID-19 health and safety standards. I also want to comment on the Midtown bus terminal announcement that we made on January 21st. The chairman and I publicly announced the agency's plan for a new Midtown bus terminal. I commend it to the board. It is a new plan created based on listening to input from both bus riders and the community. The plan is also based on a collaborative agency effort that came up with a creative and ingenious new approach that, in my judgment, is superior to all past designs. I'm pleased to report that the public reaction to date has been overwhelmingly positive, indicative of both the broad support for replacing this legacy overcapacity facility and the extensive collaboration with the communities surrounding the facility, with bus riders, and with elected officials on both sides of the Hudson River. This new Midtown bus terminal will be designed to be the most technologically advanced bus terminal in the world. It will be sustainable with the ability to support the operation of a 100% electric bus fleet. We will work toward that end with the bus companies who utilize the terminal. The terminal will be sustainable. It will be designed with the customer in mind. It will incorporate cutting-edge technologies, including autonomous bus technology, to enhance the capacity of both the terminal and the Lincoln Tunnel. It will utilize advanced artificial intelligence to facilitate efficient bus movements throughout, both at the terminal and the new staging and storage facility. It will seek cooperative partnerships with the bus companies to enable real-time monitoring of the mechanical health of buses to reduce bus breakdowns that cause congestion and disrupt the functioning of the exclusive bus lane. The Midtown Bus Terminal Replacement Project will now progress through a federal environmental review process and through New York City's ULIP process. Let me now address the operating volumes that our facilities are experiencing. Given last week's bad weather and the impacts the storms had on facility activity, I'm going to use the week of January 25th to January 29th as our measuring stick of current operating volumes. At the airports, passenger volumes for that week were down by 75% compared to the pre-COVID January 2019 weekday average. We did see a surge during the holidays of Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. Airport passenger volumes did increase by about 10% over those holidays. Nonetheless, passenger volumes were still down 65 to 70% from pre-COVID 2019 holiday operating levels. At PATH, the average weekday ridership for that week was down by 79% compared to pre-COVID January 29 weekday average. PATH's weekday ridership has remained roughly between 75 and 80% down from mid-September to now. At our bridges and tunnels, overall weekday vehicular traffic was down 11% compared to January 2019 levels. From more than 60% down at their lowest level last spring, overall vehicular traffic volume has remained roughly between 10 and 15% down from late July through today. While the port's January cargo volumes are not yet available to report, we project that they will be approximately 15% above pre-COVID 2019 levels. Port cargo volumes, which have been relatively resilient throughout 2020, actually set records in the final 3 months of 2020, of last year. Cargo volumes were up 13% in October, 23% in November, and 21% in December compared to 2019. With respect to the health and safety strategies at all of our facilities, Port Authority staff has maintained in place the highest standards and the highest effort possible to address and protect the health and safety of our customers. Masks are required everywhere. Those are enforced. Cleaning, constant cleaning, particularly for high-touch areas, touchless technology, hand sanitizers, social distancing, and a raft of other procedures have been in place and are rigorously enforced. Turning to our financial the agency's financial situation, the continuing extremely low volume activity at the airports and at PATH, as well as the drop in vehicular traffic at the bridges and tunnels, continue to generate a revenue loss of simply unprecedented proportions. The net impact to date of the reduced activity volumes from COVID-19 continues to be simply devastatingly negative. Based on our unaudited results through December 31st, lost revenues total approximately $1.7 billion. That is not an estimate. That is our confirmed revenue loss, the agency's confirmed revenue loss through the end of 2020. This revenue loss, representing one of the worst financial downturns in the Port Authority's 100-year history, is completely driven by the adverse impacts of the coronavirus pandemic. We have consistently estimated the Port Authority's revenue loss at $3 billion through March 2022. With the 2020 revenue loss now confirmed, it is clear that the agency will in fact suffer that $3 billion revenue loss. The Port Authority continues to advocate for federal aid to address this $3 billion hole that has been blown in our revenues. The Biden administration is banging the drums in D.C. for a new COVID-19 relief bill. We are delighted to see those efforts. We are delighted to see the efforts in the Congress to engage on COVID-19 relief. We are actively engaging with both the administration and the Congress to underscore the criticality of federal aid to enable the Port Authority to continue both its ambition to build 21st century facilities, but also to be in a position to contribute to a strong economic recovery. And I would emphasize again that our dollars leverage at an extraordinary percentage, an extraordinary multiple private investment. It would simply be a tragedy to lose the combination of Port Authority investment and private investment to drive the region's recovery. With respect to the specific impact of the coronavirus on Port Authority employees, as of this Wednesday, February 9th, 170 Port Authority employees have reported positive test results for COVID-19 in the last 30 days. We continue to look individually at each one of these cases to identify and address root causes with an eye on any needed additional health and safety protocols. In terms of the source of infection, approximately 25% of these new positive cases come from confirmed non-workplace exposures involving employees, family, or travel. More than 60% of the positive cases could not be traced to a known source, and roughly 10%, but only 10%, appeared to be the result of workplace exposure. In total, 337 employees are currently self-quarantining, and I would take note that that is approximately 4% of our employee population. We are highly focused on ensuring that the agency remains vigilant and that we're taking all actions we can to ensure the health and safety of our workforce and the health and safety of our customers. As I have said, our thoughts and prayers continue to be with the families of the 5 Port Authority employees who have died from the virus. With that, Mr. Chairman, I conclude my report.
Thank you, Rick. Any comments or questions from any of the commissioners from that comprehensive report? And Rick, I think the bus terminal at the end of the day will be one of the largest projects, most comprehensive, sophisticated projects this Port Authority has ever seen in its 100 years. And hats off to you for taking the time and going through. And from where the plan started a year, 18 months ago to where it is today, Rick, it is astonishing. Well done.
Thank you.
Any commissioners, any comments? All righty, moving ahead, we now have a presentation from our Chief Development Officer, Derek Utter, who will discuss an item concerning the Selection Committee recommending in connection with the World Trade Center Site 5, which will be considered on the board later on today. Derek?
Thank you, Chairman. Jake, can you put up the slides? Go ahead, Jim, just advance it, please. Great, thank you. So just to orient you, Site 5 is the in the red circle at the bottom of the map that shows the World Trade Center site, just south of the reflecting pools. This was the former Deutsche Bank building, which was damaged on 9/11. Lower Manhattan Development Corporation, LMDC, acquired the property in 2004, and after a fire in 2007, completely demolished the building in 2011. This property was transferred, was to be transferred to the Port Authority as per a memorandum of understanding which developed a plan for the site. That general project plan, the GPP, permitted commercial development of the site, in part to make up for the lost office building in the World Trade Center. Residential use would require a GPP modification. As we issued a request for proposals, Jimmy, in June of 2019, the Port Authority and LMDC jointly put out an RFP soliciting both commercial and residential proposals. The selection criteria were transparently revealed, focus on financial value and financial feasibility, also the project program and community benefits, the developer's experience and capabilities, and their diversity practices. We received 5 proposals, and those proposals underwent extensive evaluation by a joint selection committee. So you see on the right there is just a picture of what the site looks like today. So the joint selection committee recommends designating the developer team led by Brookfield and Silverstein for exclusive negotiations, and we'll come back to the board at the end of that exclusive negotiation period. The developer team also includes Omni New York and DeBar Development Partners, both affordable housing partners. DeBar is a local MWBE firm. The program will include a residential mixed-use building, which is primarily rental apartments and has about 1.56 million square feet on a gross basis. Importantly, though, 25% of those apartments would be permanently affordable apartments, so 330 units. As I mentioned a moment ago, the transaction structure would require a GPP modification, and this would be structured as a 99-year lease. So the project today is currently anticipated, as this chart shows, would be primarily residential. And you can see the blue shading on the right shows the portion that would be residential. At the bottom, you'll see 6 floors, which would be office, and then the orange and yellow would be community, public amenity, and retail space. The building would be 900 feet tall, which is slightly lower than the current Tower 4. As I alluded to a moment ago, this would require a general project plan modification to allow for residential development. The modification process would be led by Lower Manhattan Development Corporation, and the process would include an environmental review, as well as, and very importantly, significant opportunity for public input through outreach, hearings, and a public comment period. And we expect this process would take about a year to conclude. So the project benefits are important. I want to highlight these, and I'll go into just a little more detail after this page. But importantly, this is a significant step towards completing the World Trade Center campus. It will also contribute to regional economic recovery and provide major contracting opportunities for minority and women business enterprises, as well as those owned by service-disabled veterans. It'll add permanent affordable housing to Lower Manhattan, and it will deliver community facility and amenity space, which I'll highlight in a moment as well. So quickly to touch on the World Trade Center campus, there has been a drumbeat of progress in the last couple of years at the World Trade Center. The Performing Arts Center and the Greek Church are now under construction. At the commercial building, 3 World Trade Center Tower was completed about 3 years ago. And we are now moving forward to the last piece, which would be a residential building at 5 World Trade Center. And the only remaining site would be 2 World Trade Center, which is to be built as a commercial building. Importantly, the impact on the region and jobs demonstrated here on this page would include almost $2 billion of economic output, over 10,000 job years, both through construction and indirect jobs, about $750 million of labor income, and commitments from the developers to pay prevailing wage to construction workers. And then, as I mentioned a moment ago, contracting opportunities for minority businesses would be 30%, 20 for minority and 10 for women-owned businesses, and 6% for service-disabled veteran businesses. So let me just touch a moment on the permanently affordable housing component, because this is an important piece. The project currently estimates there'll be 330 permanently affordable apartments, which represent about 300,000 square feet and 25% of the total units. These would be leased to households with average incomes below 50% of the area median income, which today in the New York City area median income is just over $100,000 per year for a family of 3. So 50% of that means that you would have to have $51,000 of annual income or less for a family of 3 to qualify. And this goes beyond the typical requirement of 60% of required under the mandatory inclusionary housing program for New York City. So this will create the most affordable units in a single building in Lower Manhattan. So just to touch on the community and amenity space, the community space, about 12,000 square feet, will be dedicated for community use. And we will work with the community over the coming months to identify exactly what use they would like. They could include things like cultural activities, educational programs, or sports. In addition, there'll be another public amenity space, things like a fitness center, cafe, library and lounge, game rooms, that will be available both to residents and to community. And there'll be retail to be determined. So in conclusion, I'd like to recommend the board that they accept the selection committee's recommendation to enter into exclusive negotiations with the Brookfield Silverstein team to develop this site. What would happen next is that we would work to finalize a lease agreement and come back to the board for this approval of this lease amendment or agreement within 6 months. Over the next year, we expect LMDC would complete the GPP modification, taking into account public outreach, hearings, and public comments. And then we would expect this team to start construction of the building in 2023. So with that, I'll hand it back. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Rick, you want to add anything?
No, Mr. Chairman, I believe that our Chief Development Officer has outlined it well. I think I would emphasize the priority that the agency has placed on completing the build-out of the World Trade Center, as Derek's presentation mentioned, as well as the economic benefits in terms of our development, promoting the development of the site will contribute to a stronger economic recovery given the coronavirus crisis, something obviously that Lower Manhattan and the entire region desperately needs.
Thank you, Rick and Derek. Well done. I know we've had several meetings, a lot of discussions, several briefings with the commissioners, and this will bring it to a vote later on today. Any commissioners have any questions or comments at this time? Okay, we'll defer this meeting with this vote to the latter portion of the public meeting. In terms of the speakers program, we received several written statements that have been shared with the board earlier today. Those statements will be filed with the transcript of today's board meeting and posted on the Port Authority's website. Jim will confirm whether there's additional written statements or questions we've received, Jim?
We haven't received any additional, but we have 2 video statements that we're going to play.
Okay, I'm ready to hear. We're ready to hear those or see those 2 videos, Jim.
Yeah, and the one actually relates to the 5 World Trade Center matter. The first one, though, is Neely Weissman.
Okay.
Chairman O'Toole, Director Cotton, Commissioners. Since its inception, the Port Authority has anticipated the region's transport needs and created the infrastructure to support demand. So it's hard to fathom the agency's failure to adjust to these extreme circumstances. In December, the International Air Transport Association reported that passenger travel was down 60% and not likely to recover until 2024. Further, that air carriers have on average 8.5 months of cash on hand. This is despite the industry receiving $173 billion in government subsidy. From this, we can infer that the carriers will be forced into consolidation or bankruptcy over the next few years. Long term, we know that climate change, future pandemic, and the emergence of teleconferencing will bend the arc of air travel. Arguably, we may have already seen peak demand. And while the agency is well aware of the impact to its own finances, it still plans to expand capacity at Newark, Kennedy, and LaGuardia airports. Meanwhile, bike trips across New York City's East River bridges grew 30% in 2020. And while the city will expand bike access across the Queensboro and Brooklyn bridges, the agency still plans to restore the George with sidewalks. In both instances, the agency sees but will not adjust. This calls into question its capacity to serve the region. My condolences on the passing of Commissioner McDonald. Thank you.
Hello, I am Todd Fine, the president of the Washington Street Advocacy Group, which advocates for historic preservation in the area south of the World Trade Center. While it is hard to testify on a matter for which we have received no information despite many FOIL requests, the decision to move forward with an announcement on 5 World Trade Center should be opposed. The public should not allow the disposal of the last World Trade Center lot according to the original RFP criteria, since the needs of the city have changed significantly after COVID-19. To build a luxury residential tower at 5 World Trade Center represents a betrayal of the core principles proposed at the start of the post-September 11 reconstruction. Initially, September 11 was described universally as an attack on all New Yorkers, and in the dozens of public listening sessions in 2002 and 2003, New Yorkers frequently urged that if the World Trade Center reconstruction included housing, it should be affordable and low-income housing. Promises on these lines made by LMDC and the Port Authority regarding public land were not kept. The blatant hypocrisy here blows up the governor and the mayor's various promises about affordable housing. Any intention to change the World Trade Center project plan to allow for luxury development needs much more public scrutiny and reconsideration. The full transformation of the World Trade Center into the Hudson Yards model could be a disaster. Hello.
Jim, those are the only 2 videos we have?
That's correct.
Okay, moving ahead. We will now proceed with the voting of the items for the board's consideration. Each of the respective committee chairs will provide a brief report prior to the matter being considered today. As chair of the Committee on Operations, I will now present several items under the committee's agenda. First, I'd like to recommend to the board to approve a 22-year lease with Weeks Marine, Inc. for the letting of upland open area, berth space, and pier area at the Greenville Yard Port Authority Marine Terminal. Lease also contains 1 5-year extension option. Prior to making a motion, I ask the corporate secretary if there are any recusals.
There are no recusals.
Any commissioners have any comments or questions? Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Chairman O'Toole,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford,
Yes.
Commissioner Bagger,
Yes.
Commissioner Eve,
Yes.
Commissioner Horwitz,
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera,
Gary, you yes? So we'll get back to him, Jim.
Okay, Commissioner McCabe,
Yes.
Commissioner Pacino,
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado,
Yes.
All right, votes are in order. The motion carries, and we'll get back to Commissioner LaBarbera when we can, Jim, before the end of the meeting, just to clarify his vote.
will do.
Next, we'll have an item that clarifies the previously authorized resolution concerning the implementation of an access fee for hire vehicles at the Port Authority's 3 major airports. Specifically, the item clarifies that the access fee shall be an obligation for hire vehicles, customers and taxi customers, who will generally be collected from the customers at the end of the trip as part of their fare. Prior to making a motion, do we have any recusals?
There are no recusals.
Any comments or questions from the commissioners? Can I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Chairman O'Toole,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford,
Yes.
Commissioner Bagger,
Yes.
Commissioner Eve,
Yes.
Commissioner Horwitz,
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera, Commissioner McCabe,
Yes.
Commissioner Pacino,
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado.
Yes.
Hey, Jim, I think we're having problems with Commissioner LaBarbera's wiring there, so at some point, someone should call him and just make sure he's affirmative on those 2 votes.
Will do.
The next item authorizes the recommendation of the Selection Committee for the Port Authority to enter into exclusive negotiations for the development, financing, construction, operation, and management of a multi-family unit residential building on the site formerly occupied by 130, 140 Liberty Street, or terms to be reflected in a development agreement and long-term lease. The terms of the long-term lease would be subject to future board authorization. Motion, any recusals?
I'm here.
Recusals.
Let's hold back. Gary, yeah, you can hear, Gary, you're back on. So Gary, you affirmative?
Having a technical issue.
Gary, you back on, Gary?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm having a technical issue. I'm back.
Okay, so were you a yes on those first 2 board items?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So any recusals on this issue dealing with 130, 140 Liberty Street, Jim?
No recusals.
Okay, any comments or questions from the commissioners? Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Chairman O'Toole,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford,
Yes.
Commissioner Bagger,
Yes.
Commissioner Eve,
Yes.
Commissioner Horwitz,
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera,
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe,
Yes.
Commissioner Pacino,
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado.
Yes.
Votes in order. The motion passes. At this time, I ask the Vice Chair Linford, may I have your report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Chair of the Committee on Capital Planning, Execution, and Asset Management, I will now report on one item under the committee's purview. This item authorizes the reallocation of approximately $201 million of the $1.1 billion in funds that were previously authorized by the board for the John F. Kennedy International Airport Redevelopment Program. The reallocation would accommodate the resequencing of infrastructure projects necessitated by the COVID-19 pandemic and the resulting need to renegotiate the terminal development deals with private entities. There would be no additional expenditure resulting from this action. Prior to making a motion on this item, I asked the corporate secretary to note any commissioner recusals.
There are no recusals on this matter.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, I now request a motion on this item.
Motion to
Second.
Thank you. I now request the corporate secretary to call the roll for voting on the item.
Chairman O'Toole,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Linford,
Yes.
Commissioner Bagger,
Yes.
Commissioner Eve,
Yes.
Commissioner Horwitz,
Yes.
Commissioner LaBarbera,
Yes.
Commissioner McCabe,
Yes.
Commissioner Pacino,
Yes.
Commissioner Rosado.
Yes.
All right, the votes are in order. The motion carries. Jeff, I'm sorry, that's your line, not mine. It's not on
Okay,
your line.
as the votes are in order, this item is approved, and I turn it back to our chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Jim, any other items that we have to discuss today or vote on?
None.
Okay, seeing none, I want to thank everyone for the first meeting in 2021. Have a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all very much, and we'll see you
Thank you
soon.
all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Stay